of October, and guess what day it is? It is a day the world is celebrating the essence and everything relating to food. Yeah. Okay, that's what it's all about today. So I've got a guest who she's in the business of food. That's all she does. Food, 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 food. Just wait until you get to meet her. But let's begin this conversation by setting the background for us. With a world population that is set to be hitting around 8 billion officially, as from what I've seen so far from the United Nations figures, about 7.8 million, then you can safely just do approximation and say, yes, we are hitting the 8 billion mark already for the world population. And looking at the possibility of feeding this population in terms of food and, of course, adding water. How can you give a man food or a woman food or a child food and then not add water to it? That's how we'll get to the theme of this year's conversation for the World Food Day. But remember again, as we get into this conversation, it is said in the African parlance that there is no God like the stomach. It accepts sacrifice on a daily basis, not even on a daily now, depending on your pocket, it can take for breakfast, sacrifice, it will take again probably sometime around lunch and ask for it before you go to sleep. And so when you fail to do all of these along any of these three and you want to go to sleep at night, then you will discover that not everything that bites at night is truly mosquito. Anyway, I'll let you rest there. We'll come back shortly. So that's just to give you a tip of what we are going to discuss this morning as we look into the World Food Day. Today being the 16th is the World Food Day with a theme, Water is Life, Water is Food. And now, to leave no one behind, water is essential to the life on Earth, of course, to humans, and of course, to plants. It covers the majority of the Earth's surface and makes up about 50% of our body produce for food and supports livelihood. What else would you like to know? According to the World Food Organization, World Food Program, WFP, the Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, 24.8 million Nigerians will be at the risk of acute food insecurity between June and August. So scary, right? Well, let's meet our guest this morning and make welcome Juliet Aigbe. She's Chef Juls, as she's known, founder of the Bourffe Bakeries Limited. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome, Lagos.
All right. So we want to say happy World Food Day to you and to everyone listening to us right now, and to let people know they can be part of this conversation as we get talking at some point on 014489981 for calls only. And then, of course, you can reach us up on as WhatsApp message on 0809444091 for WhatsApp messages. So let's begin this conversation by getting to understand what exactly we mean when we begin to talk about food and its importance to supporting life on Earth.
Awesome. I mean, today is World Food Day, and I want to really, first of all, elaborate a bit on that. That it's not only about celebrating the amazing foods that people have the privilege of indulging according to the World Food Program. You know, people all over the world suffer from hunger. Starvation is actually a massive problem. You know, a number of countries, especially, you know, below, let me say, the equator or sub-Saharan region. And the theme for this year is, you know, about water, you know, and you'll be amazed that in spite of having almost 8 billion people on the earth, only about 0.5% of the planet's total water is fresh and available to drink. So what happens to this vast majority of people that need to find clean water, affordable water? And even right now, statistics show that 1 in 4 people worldwide do not have access to safe drinking water at home. So what are we talking about? So it's a big issue, but we're going to drill down here today and just kind of celebrate the whole idea of food, water, and then zero in on the theme as well as we go on the show. So in terms of food insecurity, we need to break that down when we say food insecurity. There's what they call food wastage or food loss, and then there's food wastage.
Yes.
And the loss comes from, you know, before it gets to the consumer, where you have it at the agronomy level, the backward integration part, where you're already producing the goods. Sometimes maybe seeds and spices are not available, or when they are doing their harvesting, it's what they call post-harvest losses. That's when you experience food loss. And then when you now buy the food from the shelves of supermarkets, you get home, you don't consume everything, you trash it after it has expired. That's food wastage. There's a whole lot we need to unpack here as we go on my share.
So you delved into the matter so much that we just sink our feet into it, and let's get into, like you talked about, you've already touched on harvesting. Let's say, yes, harvest, getting the food out of the farms to the markets. We understand lots of wastages occur. And now we're talking locally now, Nigeria, not, let's leave the other parts of the world because they have their own, let's face us here. And what we're looking at. So it's said that a lot of waste do occur in the process of bringing the food from the farm to the marketplace, not even before it gets to the final consumer who takes it home. Speak to us about why we still cannot overcome that challenge. What are those obstacles that leads or still make us lose so much from harvest?
Thank you so much for that very insightful question. If you look at the food chain, or let me say the whole value chain of food itself, you first have it from the source of the value chain, which is the farms, where you produce the raw materials. It could be seeds, it could be food crops or cash crop, and then now look through the cycle. So a typical food cycle, or let me say, pick any food item. The typical value chain goes as the farmer, and then you have what I call the aggregators, because the farmers don't really aggregate. Because what we have in Nigeria, we have mostly smallholder farmers, and our farmings are not really mechanized, it's subsistence. And so, for example, you want to supply, say, 100 tons of millets to maybe a location where it is needed. You want to aggregate millet production from different farms. So you could have one farm in Gadangaya, the other farm will be in Gombe. And then on that, so you want to aggregate at a particular warehouse. So aggregating will require transportation, moving around from farm to farm, from farmer to farmer, gathering what they have in their small bits, and then putting them together in a whole lump. And then when you put that together, you now begin to preserve them in the warehouse, and then you ship them to the various locations where they are now needed, either in a bakery factory or a processing plant where you use them for things like flours, or finished goods, and then you put them on the supermarket shelves and all of that. So if you look at it from the point of where the food is produced, look at it maybe when you maybe plant, say, 10 seeds, maybe only 5 will germinate. Why? Because of maybe poor agronomy. If you look at our agricultural practices, we have pockets of smart agricultural practices, or climate smart agricultural practices, whereby the seeds, thrive very well. Their resilience to the climate change is already happening right now. So maybe not all the farmers have access to these seeds. So when they produce their grains, there's minimal capacity. Let me say they're not really hitting optimal capacity of production. That in its own is already I'm calling loss. And then by the time the plants now grow out, you already have them full, it reaches its full life cycle, and then you harvest it. At the point of harvesting, maybe you already have the pests, animal pests that's kind of descend on those crops. Maybe you didn't really do the proper agronomy, like I said. And then you now package them. In the course of packaging, maybe you're losing the grains, there's too much human intervention. When there's a lot of human intervention in your packaging, you tend to have a lot of losses, as opposed to when it's automated, where you have all these conveyor belt styled processing plants where you just no human intervention, and just pressing buttons and the rest of it. And then you package that into your bags, and then you load them into your trucks. And then guess what? Sometimes those trucks can spend days, if not weeks on end, in traffic. Maybe they have a bad road, or the truck gets breaks down. And that I always talk about that, or your bend. It's a notorious bend where a lot of trucks, as they're making that descent down the ramp, it just topples, or they just go off, skid off the road, and then they can be there for weeks. And then you now have all these products that already have maybe short shelf life. Maybe things like potatoes, they're notoriously, they have that low shelf life that by the time you move them around and there's too much heat, they pack in all this J5.
Tomatoes and all
tomatoes, they spill over, you now see all these rots, and it also gets infected. E. coli is found mostly in when you don't cook your tomatoes very well. Contamination. So yeah. So if you look at that value chain, you see now that it's not just grow the product, and it's already on your table in a linear pattern. It goes through a cycle, sometimes sinusoidal, sometimes a meandering pathway to get to that table. And so in the course of producing from farmer to the consumer, you now have all these losses along the way. And that makes the farmer not have enough, to take care of his family or to maintain his farm business. And then also it makes food access more expensive to those who are consuming. So it's a whole, complex trail.
There are takeaways already. First, it's been established now that infrastructure is a major issue big issue for food distribution and getting it out of the farms. But something again I take out is how can we add value to food right from the source instead of getting it until it gets to the city before you can add value. So let's say tomato. If the farmer can averagely say process maybe the tomato, it will not get to that point where in less than 3 days before, imagine tomato coming all the way from Sokoto to Lagos. If the tomato can tell the story of what it went through, maybe we'll respect it more when it gets to our table.
Omatseye, let me shock you. I am still surprised that we're still using
but not 220 voltage now.
I'm surprised we're still using trailers to move tomatoes. Why can't we? I sound like a broken record already. I've said this many times even on your show. Why can't we have rail tracks from farms to markets and crisscross across Nigerian cities? If you do that, you already have these refrigerator-styled carriages, or what do you call them? We call it cargo trains. You have the refrigerator, things like even strawberries. In the market right now, if you go and buy a pack of strawberries, about 3,500. Meanwhile, up north, it's half the price. By the time it gets to Juls, it's almost like, what you buy 3,000 naira here in Lagos, in Juls is probably 500 naira. But because of the trail of transportation, the hazards, all of that bottlenecks, before I get to the table, it becomes very expensive. So if you can do rail tracks, why can't we have rail tracks? I read where the president did mention his intervention agenda for Nigeria, and he talked about improving farm practices and improving agricultural produce, to the average consumer. But my point, I did ask a question even on Twitter when he posted, like, okay, so are you saying that we're going to have rail tracks? So we don't want the sound bites and the rhetorics. We just want to see the granular breakdown of what exactly they mean by providing food safety and food security.
All right, Jules, and just a moment now. If you just joined in, it's the World Food Day, and I've got Juliet Aigbe here with me, aka Chef Juls, doing justice to the conversation this morning. And the theme of this year's World Food Day celebration is water is life, water is food. And so we've been unpacking the food aspect. We'll get to water shortly, but that will be after the green light and then for traffic to flow by. Stay with us. We are Smooth 98.1 FM.
What does future forward banking mean to you? Speed, innovation, convenience, lifestyle goals, or just simply getting service that's designed just for you? Yeah, we thought you might like all of that and more. That is why we specially created Providence Bank for you to take care of your daily experiences. At Providence Bank, we believe that banking should be all about you and your business and how to get you to the next level. If you do not already have a Providence Bank account, please speak with our business concierge on 0700 77 684 387 or email businessconcierge@providencebank.com to switch to a future forward banking experience. Providence Bank, future forward banking.
You're tuned in to the Quiet Storm. Small R&B music.
R&B soul is a real thing. R&B.
Tune in to the best of smooth R&B. Music doesn't change. R&B news transition by certificate.
Singing in melody and lyrics that mean something.
Serving music for the night. The smooth special on speed 3.1 Mondays to Thursdays from 8 p.m.
Providence Bank, future forward banking.
We're smooth 98.1 FM, 17 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. It's still Lagos Talks 981. I've got Chef Juls still with me this morning. So let's also let you know we can get your thoughts in on how we can overcome food insecurity in Nigeria as the world celebrates the World Food Day with a theme, water is life, water is food, and that's what we like to know. Also, if you call us up on 014489981 or send us a message to 0809-444-0981. Before we get into the deeper issues, we've established the fact that there is wastage, there is infrastructural issues relating to food issues in the country. But talk to me right now about the population of farmers we've got in the country. Do you see that the population of farmers we have as being sufficient enough to provide food for the rest of us who see farming as not our thing?
Interesting. I think the issue is not in the quantity of farmers we have, but in the quality of farmers. When I say quality, I mean, do they really have the right agronomical practices? Do they really have access to tools, to infrastructure, the seeds that can actually do that? I mean, abroad, I don't think you have so many farmers, but you look, you see
our farmers are aging. Our farmers are, if you've seen the people who produce this food, you see they're aging, and how are we looking forward to replace them as they go?
There's actually a reawakening regarding climate smart agricultural practices, which is gaining ground right now. I mean, there's a lot of programs that even engage entrepreneurs on how to do smart farming practices. And so even though we have the aging population, we still have the young people who are coming on board right now. And a lot of fantastic programs like the Brace program did actually show how many people can go back into farming without having to sweat it out like, our fathers did. And so there's a lot of improvements, in short, agri-tech right now that we can deploy to improve farming practices. So it's not essentially relegated to the older generation. As a matter of fact, with a lot of intervention from Ministry of Agri, I did see that there's a new effort geared towards encouraging young people to come into farming. And why? There are a lot of grants. The Agri Bank actually did put out some stunts the other day. They're encouraging people to come into farming. There's a lot of subsidy in, getting seeds and also getting funding for farming practices. So it's those things are really there. Many people don't access these funds just because they don't have proper structures in their businesses. They don't keep their books, and they're just, just doing it for just because their parents already have farms. So there are already moves. We don't really need so many farmers to feed Nigeria. As a matter of fact, all we need to do is improve mechanization, and then also improve automation and improve technology. Let's embrace these climate smart agri practices. They're all over the place. And if we do that, we can actually we can improve the yield of our products and build resilience and mitigate against even these climate change issues that we currently have. So I believe, and I can see all the facts and figures, that farming is not essentially relegated to just people in the hinterlands. We already have that, but there's a lot of change. If you go along Shagamu Express Road, you see all kinds of farms, greenhouses, where they grow crops, and they can grow them all year round. So all that's already taking place, and we don't really need too many farmers. As a matter of fact, let me shock you, we don't need too many farmers. We just need a few farmers who know what they're doing and who are giving all the support they need. I can assure you that we just 10 farmers.
Jules, I don't know if anyone listening right now would agree with this point you're making, but let's look at it for a population. Let's just say we are hypothetical now. A population of 200 million people, and you think, let's say 5,000 farmers, let's say the people who are into farming to feed the rest of us, you think they're up to about 100,000? And
absolutely,
if they are up to, let's say 1 million farmers, would that be sufficient enough, hypothetically, to say, okay, since you say we don't need too many persons to farm, and it will be fine?
You'll be shocked that Nigeria is not as urbanized as it's perceived. Get out of Lagos, you see a lot of smallholder farmers. Where you have the commercial activities, Lagos, Ibadan, Port Harcourt, other parts of Nigeria is not as developed as you see. So many farmers or many people already have their farms, their gardens, and the rest of it. But if you say feed the nation to the point where you can even export, I think we have more than enough. It's just to optimize and empower these farmers, to improve farming practices, like I said, and then just empower them. provide their basic needs. I mean, we've seen many of the world-class farmers or farming practices across the globe. You don't need too many. One farmer can have 100 hectares. Just give him hectares. Just give him maybe like his tractors. He just goes through. Have you seen those long, even in Igbo or somewhere in Ogun States where you have the Obasanjo farms? It's miles and miles and miles and miles of farms. If we have like 10 of that kind of Obasanjo farms across Nigeria, we can feed Nigeria. And that's food revolution I've talked about, operation, I think, is it green revolution? We need to reenact it again because now food is expensive. If we all start growing our vegetables, for example, to become cheaper. So there are a lot of things we can do to actually bring down the cost of food. And food shouldn't be scarce in Nigeria because do you know, let me shock you, one statistics, 60% of our
you shocked me twice now.
60% of our arable land remains uncultivated. That is disturbing. Why?
Yeah.
So we have enough. It's just to have the infrastructure to till the ground and bring out the food that we have in abundance, and we can even share to the rest of the world as well. Africa can feed the world. Nigeria can feed Africa. Nigeria can feed Africa. So we already have what it takes. So the issue is the political will, the economic will, and then the infrastructure to empower the farmers and then connect the farmers. Do you know the farmers are disconnected from people like us? When I say I want cassava, okay, are you coming to buy my whole farm? They're just looking to survive. But they know that if I produce maybe gluten-free mix, for example, they know who needs it. When they grow their cassava, they will know how to tailor it around the needs of the people. But right now, there's a disconnect between farmers, producers like me, and then consumers. So we want to make that connection, we want to close that gap and come back and form a strong bond in that cycle.
Now, I've got a message in here from supporting what you said. Awale sent in a message saying, it says it was in Kenya where he went to a farm and he said they needed 3 days to go across the farm.
Wow. You see? I mean, it's doable. It's just for us to automate, mechanize, give them improved seeds, take care of the needs of the farmers can feed Nigeria. What we have right now is enough. It's just to make them optimize to produce enough food to feed the nation. And guess what? We can also even boost export earnings from our food. Look at what happened in many years ago when we had the granite pyramids. Where are those pyramids now? Cocoa in Nigeria can take care of all the European needs of cocoa. But we don't really consume as much cocoa as they do in Europe. So what we have, we can even start. And do you know how this thing happens? You produce raw materials, you get them in the raw material stage and take it abroad, process them, bring them back and sell them like almost times 10 the price. Why won't you have food insecurity? You have that. So when we produce, you feed the local population first, whatever is left, you export, and then you begin to optimize your production. Then it's a no-brainer. We can solve this problem, but there are many factors fighting against the solution.
Okay, this will also leave, before we leave this issue of the farmers, first, we've established the fact that there are enough farmers. It's just to smarten things up and then mechanize agriculture. We are good to go. Absolutely. But doesn't it surprise you that for a country with the size of Nigeria and with the fertility, which is presumed to be across the length of this country, that we still battle with inability to feed ourselves sufficiently?
Sufficiently, that's the word. It's baffling why we still have these problems, but maybe fundamentally look at education. Many of the farmers who produce these foods are not really educated. And when I say education, I don't mean you must go to a university. Basic, first 6 years in primary school, maybe 3 more years in secondary school. You don't need to go through the university to do anything farming. You can read, you can write. I think that's sufficient. And then we can't overflow this issue of empowerment. We need to empower these farmers. And many people want to I want to hammer. That's why they go into farm. No, it's not about hammering. It's about providing for you and your family first, and then extending that to the community, and then extending that to maybe other states, and then ultimately exports. Export is something that we should do more. Do you know Nigeria imports 90% of its wheat consumption? That is ridiculous. But if you start doing things like hybrid grains or composite flour, like we have things, I always talk about millets advocacy. Millets can combine very well with wheat to produce bread. Why are we depending on 100% imported grain to produce bread? Wheat is a temperate grain. It's not even grown in Nigeria. We say, we grow wheat in 13 states of Nigeria. If you pass all the wheat that we grow in Nigeria, combine them together and pass them through a flour mill factory, Under 1 hour, all you milled is gone. That's all. We have a quantity issue and a quality issue. The type of wheat, durum wheat, which they use in making bread, we don't grow it in Nigeria. So the issue is we need to look at our own domestic grains that we have and then bring them to bear. If we're already used to eating bread, how can we modify the products such that Nigerians can eat what they produce? In a country like Ethiopia, their local staple is injera, and it's gotten from teff, T-E-F-F, is a local grain, a gluten-free grain that they grow in their environment. You know, if you notice, Ethiopia was not colonized, and so their food came from what they already used to. But we went through the colonial construct, and so when we brought in wheat, it became our national staple. And so it means that for Nigeria to continue to survive, to continue to depend on imports from the West. Now we can be interdependent with the West by bringing our own grain. If we bring our own grain into bear in making bread, you realize that we can actually have our imports by 50%.
But we tried. There was the need for talking about trying. There was the cassava bread. There was the cassava that was our attempt to use cassava for bread. So you are the chef. So what really happened? You rolled that out.
The cassava story is very interesting. What happened was bad strategy. Government focused on the producers and said you must produce 10% cassava intervention in your flour composition, which was not a bad idea on paper, but in reality, who dictates the tune? It is the consumer. Just the way, if you saw how government puts a lot of effort towards bromates, banning bromates, and using seat belts, you see, it was an effective campaign. They could have put that campaign on the consumer. And maybe look like, okay, domestic grains, we're importing too much. Let's start eating our own produce. Change the narrative around how you pitch the change from wheat, 100% wheat to cassava. And at the time, the advocacy came at the wrong time, because at that time, wheat was very affordable. It wasn't challenged. If you ain't broke, don't fix it. So if wheat was very affordable, why switch to cassava? I think cassava has a chance right now to begin to amplify its rhetoric that, see, you know what, we need to eat what we produce first. Eat what you produce. I don't know why we have this foreign appetite, where all we are all trying to eat is what is brought from the abroad. Eat what you have first, and then you can now export the excess. But we do the reverse.
Let's anchor briefly. Let's anchor briefly here, but when we come back, we'll get to the real issues of food insecurity in Nigeria, identify them and how we can overcome them, and then get into the issues of production in terms of using agricultural products into finished products, and then how they can bring food to our table. If you just joined in, you're listening to Lagos Talks 981. Today is World Food Day with the theme, Water is Life, Water is Food, and that's all we're talking about. We also would like you to, get your thoughts into this issue. Do you see the number of farmers we've got presently being able to sustain, provide food for the rest of us while we chase the white collar and the blue collar jobs? Well, it's a question up for you. Let's know what your thoughts will be on 01-448-9981 as call, and then send us a WhatsApp message on 0809-444-0981.
Future forward banking. Everybody I've come to support, stay tuned, smooth and perform. Love music, love life. Lifestyle goals, or just simply getting service that is designed just for you. Yeah, we thought you might like all of that and more. That is why we specially created Providence Bank for you to take care of your daily experiences. At Providence Bank, we believe that banking should be all about you and your business and how to get you to the next level. If you do not already have a Providence Bank account, please speak with our business concierge on 0700 77 684 387. or email businessconcierge@providencebank.com to switch to a future forward banking experience. Providence Bank, future forward banking. This is the Smooth Breakfast Show.
We're smooth 98.1 FM. It's gone 28 minutes before it is top of the hour 10. It's still World Food Day, and we are looking at food issues. And my guest, Juliet Igbe, is still with me, aka Chef Jules. Well, as an aside, are we having a marathon cookathon somewhere along the line? Let's know with all of this food we're talking about somewhere today.
The Basi has done it.
Yeah, okay. So let's get into, before we went on that quick break we're talking about food insecurity. It's established now there is food insecurity in Nigeria, but let's understand, why can't people go to farm any longer? And why isn't agriculture that safe as it's looking? And some say the farmer is endangered as we're speaking right now in Nigeria.
Well, there are no quick fixes. It's really sad that we do have farmers going through kidnappings and farmlands being, disturbed. But, with all of that negative news, there's also the positive side. We actually do have interventions going on. I mean, this year has been declared International Year of Millets. I see, I've learned a lot from India, how, they've improved their food security. Now, there are three pillars to consider. Design innovation. What are we doing with our current situation to redesign and re-engineer and restructure it so that it can begin to now serve us? Then two, food safety practices. How can we ensure that the food are nutritive enough? They're not laden with too many additives, or even when they are cultivating them, they're not, giving too much chemical fertilizers and pesticides. We can actually do proper organic farming. And the third one is, I can't quite remember. Okay, market connectivity. How do we ensure that the food from the farm is taken to the table, farm to fork? How do we make sure that it's affordable? Because that's the problem. A whole pack of, if you buy tomatoes now, they'll tell you no longer 3 for 500. It's actually 1 for 500 now. Before you say, madam, how much is it? 200, 3 for 500. You can even price the tomatoes. Now you can't do that in open markets, So how do we begin to solve this problem? There are no quick fixes. It's design innovation. Look at it. Which area is producing tomatoes? Can you reproduce that in other states? If you produce from Kaduna, can you bring it down to Lagos without it having to depend on trailer alone? Let us build. I hope Federal Ministry of Transport or even the Railway Corporation that are listening to me, can we just have rail tracks from farms, not just intercity now, which is great. I like the blue line, fantastic. Let's have the green line, please. The one that moves from farm to markets, from mile 12 to Sokoto or to Kaduna. Can we have a rail track so at every farm location, maybe at your markets, it has a bus stop?
Yeah.
Do you understand? We need stuff like that. Why can't all those trailer owners, those northern businessmen who merchandise tomatoes, come together? We have an association, right? Begin to build rail tracks. It could be from Kaduna to maybe Jos, and then from Jos, farmers just do it another interstate like that and connect it. If we do that, Omatseye, we are going to begin to address that issue of food insecurity. That is number one. Number two, let us begin to eat our own locally grown foods. If you eat your own food, it's grown in your backyard, right? So it's already one with you. If you import, you're bringing food from a temperate region. I don't see how that satisfies your need, because it's not designed for you. You can do the, what they call composites mixture and infusion, fine. But to depend 100% on an imported foreign temperate product is not sustainable, Omatseye. So we need to fix that problem. And I think at the talking points we need to dwell in, let it sink in, and let's begin to do that. And we have enough farmers, optimize them, optimize food production, empower them in resources. We cannot say it enough. Improve transport network, improve productivity. It's not about activity just going to farm. What are you doing when you get to the farm? Are you planting 1 bag in an hour, or you can plant 100 bags in 20 minutes? We want to be able to improve those agri practices. And that's why I feel it's important for us to be having this conversation.
Now, something sticks out of what you were saying. You've been this advocate in the period of this conversation. You've kept going on about how we should consume what we what we can find locally. So you even would resonate the words of the former president Muhammadu Buhari when he said we should eat what we produce and or we perish. That's how he put it mildly the other time. But again, how do you explain? Some persons will say it's not as if I don't even want to eat the locally produced food, but it seems like the locally produced foods are more expensive than what is imported, i.e. rice as we speak. They say the locally produced rice are even more expensive than the ones you bring in. So now you see, it's not a fault of I don't want to eat local rice, which we've got here, but it's because the price.
Thank you very much for that. On the 13th of July, presidents declared the state of emergency on stabilizing nation, food security, and the rest of it. Because we actually put more effort in exporting our fodder rice, that's why it's expensive here. So if, okay, in 2017, government increased tariff on wheat importation by 15%, right? When you do increase in tariff, I don't see how they have not even said, okay, let's empower these farmers to produce more. You're already increasing tariff without producing more. There's a problem. So you see, the way we make our policies, they're not made by entrepreneurs, they're made by bureaucrats who just posture. There's a lot of posturing going on, even in government. And I must say this, if I really want to make a difference, I can't just be sugarcoating things. We need to stop posturing. There's too much posturing going on. You see the optics, the photo ops, all that. Let's sit at the table with your farmers, your consumers, your stakeholders, all of them. Don't just give us policies and dish it out to us. Sit with us and discuss it first. Okay, we want to increase tariff on wheat importation. What do we have on ground that we can optimize and create visibility for? When you do that, you can say, okay, between now and this time, we give you 3 months to put your house in order, and then we'll do this. We as Africans, we spend so much on food. We spend too much on food that is imported from the abroad. Some will say, okay, well, it's not as nicely packaged as the ones abroad. Those are richer countries. They are richer. They are richer than us. So why don't you start first? When you patronize the locally produced ones, they will begin to what they call R&D. They begin to do research and development. And then over time, you see the products begin to, I don't know if you know this St. Louis package of sugar.
Stay away from the product. Don't mention the brand.
Okay, sorry.
Stay away.
That packaging has never changed since I was born. And they are still dominating that space. So my point is this. We need to first of all show political will. Just declaring state of emergency on food security is not enough. What are the action plans that we can drill down, practical steps that we can take to ensure that we close that gap and make Nigerians, we used to use lace for parties before, and they banned lace. We are going to start producing Ankara. Even the Ankara we're producing now is not even produced in Nigeria. Let me shock you. It's produced outside. So what, and they will say, okay, I want to produce no power supply. Diesel now is over 1,000 naira. And they're saying they're going to still. So when they remove subsidy, there's still no power supply, roads are still bad. What have they fixed? So these things are not just, they just throw optics and rhetorics out there.
All right.
It's about really improving welfare of people. That's very important.
Chef Jules, because you mentioned this, and it looks like policymakers in agriculture seem to be distant from the people who are actually involved in that sector. So because you raised that, what's the kind of image of a Minister of Agriculture you like to see? Would it be that type who doesn't wear agbada, but a farmer's hat with hoe and then probably sleeve rolled up with shorts, and then you see it cuts the image, and that would convince the farmers who they are really supposed to impact to want to believe in the policies they are rolling out?
Thank you very much for that. He can wear agbada, no problem. My point is that farmer, I watched that farmer that you see, why not profile the farmer? Oh, farmer A produces millets. He doesn't have a good house. What are he needs? Go and meet the farmer. What are your needs? And please document this thing. Maybe they should have like a national.
Hello, just a moment. You've got to call it. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Please, your name and location. Hello. Okay, just please do well to give us a call back. Sorry, you were saying there was a call while you were trying to make the point, but if it comes, I'll let you know. Go on.
Put a face and a story around these farmers so that they can highlight their problems. Yes. Even if you wear traditional outfits, it doesn't change anything. The issue is the farmers who are producing, what are their needs? What are their problems? Bring that to the table. For example, coconuts, Lascoda is, coconut authority, and I'm like saying, the nectar part of The
The
coconut
caller is
tree.
back once more. Let's see. Hello, good morning. Good morning, please. Your name and location. All right. So go on.
Okay. So why can't you not? Okay, you're back.
Yes. So for me, I think it's important to also talk about food security because I know 3 different people involved in agriculture that have had to give up those ventures and businesses because of insecurity. One is in the north, one and 2 are in the southwest.
Mm.
And, you know, I remember, like you rightly said, Juls, in those days, we used to have what they called DIFRI, Directorate of
Yes.
Food,
Food, road, and infrastructure. Yeah.
Yes, we don't have anything now that seems to look at what the farmer needs. I mean, we're talking about rice, and we talk about silos and storage. You know, like you said, the policy has looked at increasing the tariff for exportation of avocado, but have you thought about helping increasing the administration and the government always seem to look to financial incentives or to doing things. So rather than increase production, we're only making 10 bags of avocado, let us increase the tariff so people will not export. So like you said, the policies are being made by people that are not really speaking with the farmers. And Omat, I don't think the farmers care whether the man is wearing a t-shirt and things.
Exactly.
What they want is if someone can speak their language, understand what they need, and translate that into proper framework and legislation and policies that will boost production.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You see what he said? The farmers and the government must speak the same language.
Yeah.
It's not government dictating to the farmers how it's going to be. Sit with the farmers first. When the president declared state of emergency, where did you get the fact data from? From the farmers or from, appointees? You need to get the farmers together, sit with the farmers, have a roundtable, have a fireside chat, if you want to call it that way, with the farmers, or is it bonfire now, as the case may be, and then sit with the farmers and then know their issues and then don't just give us hopes and wishes, deadline, timelines, and then ask the farmers, can you appoint somebody among yourself who can help, put all this together? Let's even have a website, call it Nigerian Voices, agricultural issue, list it, transportation, let's talk. We need to connect.
All right.
We're not connecting, we're just doing optics. Let's connect.
Yes, we're back shortly now, but then we've got issues of this effect of the food scarcity on businesses and what it looks like. That's our next port of call. And then we'd also be looking at fuel subsidy on food prices when we come back. You're on to Lagos Talks 981 on Smooth 98.1 FM. Stay with us.
Love music, love life. Smooth 98.1. What is
Is that a mistake? What? What's that? What happened? See, I just bought 1,000 naira glue data instead of the usual.
I'm sorry, guys. Your ears. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to get.
It's okay.
Coming back shortly.
Are we still on? Omas, are we still on? Can you hear me? Omatseye, are we on?
You were saying?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay,
We're back in less than 30 seconds.
That's fine.
Hold on.
I have some stats to even share.
We're smooth 98.1 FM. I'm still talking about the World Food Day with the theme, water is life, water is food. That's what we've been looking at. And then we're domesticating all of these to Nigeria, and in terms of food sufficiency is what this conversation has been so far. And we've been able to establish the fact that the government policymakers must be able to connect with these farmers to make these policies impactful, so there will be a buy-in. But I understand we've got a call here for you, Chef Juls, and let's see. Hello, good morning.
A couple of years ago, the government banned the importation of corn. And what that happened was that, people may not understand the importance of corn to the agricultural industry, but it's the basis for feed, for chicken feed, for poultry, for pigs, and for a lot of other feed that are produced, even for fishes, right? The fish farming that everybody. And what happened was that there was a scarcity of feed. The price of feed went up. I think it almost tripled. And there was it's so bad that they had to come together, the poultry associations, and approach the government. And then the government gave, I think, 3 of the local manufacturers a sovereign license to import corn. So you ask yourself, why do we do things like that? We do not produce enough corn to make the feed. When you ban the importation of the corn, what you have just done, you created a scarcity, the price has gone up. You have farmers that are now struggling. They are paying 3 months in advance for feed, and they can't get it. And if you know anything about poultry farming, you know that once you change the diet of your birds, even if they're layers or especially if they're layers, broilers, you can still cook, but if they're layers, they can stop laying eggs. It's just changing their feed, you stop their cycle. So there are a lot of things that go into consideration that they don't really take into consideration. Everything seems to be based on, this thing, we are spending dollars to import this, so let's ban it. Without checking the multiplier effect of the ban. That is why you notice now, Omar, in the past 3-4 years, the price of a kilo of chicken has gone up by 2.5 times. The price of eggs are rising.
All right, thank you very much for your time this morning. We had the Bukum back again, but then he speaks as someone who really, it touches it like,
you can see, I feel the passion. I feel his passion. It's really, really disturbing,
Yes, really disturbing.
Omatseye, Nigerians doing their shopping, just this year alone, we're paying over 50% more for staple items than we did a year ago. Yes, the price of bread now is over 1,000 naira compared to last year. Nigerians' inflation rate stands at 22.79%. I'm sure it's going up by the day.
We're expecting figures today, the figures for September by today, Monday. We're expecting to see what it looks like. But then we're going to drag into. So that even leads us to what we're going to speak about in terms of when subsidy was removed, the impact on food businesses and where we are. It's like the Chinua Achebe's, the white man came and put a knife on the things that have put us together. Like subsidy came and rendered everything that held up. And then now the center cannot hold in the pot. But just take it away from there for us.
Okay. Well, it's I don't want to just sound like a prophet of doom or anything like that. While we face reality, we still have to keep hope alive, be optimistic, and like I did say, there are no quick fixes. We want to be able to break it down and say, how can we begin to isolate the problem and tackle it? And if you look at statistics of what's been going on or how we've been, dealing with this fuel subsidy, there's also the opportunists who come and say, okay, there's fuel subsidy, so my tomato have gone up. I bring it. Even those who have no business doing transportation of their food products to the market also have put the price up. You understand? So I believe it has a ripple effect there. Well, even though the whole idea of removing subsidy makes sense, my point is we didn't mitigate those conditions very well because things have gone up so high that we can almost have a food revolution if we're not careful. So, but I like how the president did come with compassion in his speeches. That's good. beyond the rhetorics, I always say, what is the substance of how you actually convert your welfare package to the people? Because who actually, when two elephant fights, is the grass that suffers. When you put up that, when you take up subsidy like that, I have not seen any change so far in quality of life, power supply, or even good roads. I've not seen anything like that. Fine, we've already launched the blue line and all that, but it's still like a drop, in the mighty ocean of the issues that we need to resolve. So that fuel subsidy removal honestly was a game changer in terms of how things have transformed our lives to a point where people are living on the edge. However, I must say this: never let this crisis go to waste. What can we do differently? I keep saying, when you encounter a problem, you want to question yourself. I want to throw in a question into what's going on here. What can I do differently? We cannot just keep complaining without also adjusting our appetites, adjusting our habits, and also changing our paradigms. We need to shift our paradigm to see, okay, what can we do? Look inward. Backward integration is the way to go. What do you have on ground? You always have something. Every country in the world has something to offer the world. What do you have? Take care of your internal dynamics first. I always say, why are they paying us in dollars? If I want to really go radical about this, if we are also bringing things that we don't need to Nigeria, right? And we're selling maybe our crude or whatever it is we're selling, to gas, whatever it is to the rest of the world, let's not transact in dollars anymore. Let's transact in infrastructure. Fix power supply, just like you gave Dangote the commissions to fix this express roads with concrete, beautifully done road, and you relieve them on tax for the next how many years. Do something like that. When you're buying your gas or your crude oil or your agri products, do not collect dollars. Rather, collect infrastructure, collect technology. Let's trade in technology, infrastructure, and let's leave out the dollar, because we don't even earn dollars. So, and now there's a scarcity of dollar, and now things keep going. Do you know a dollar is about almost 8,050 naira? That is ridiculous.
Chef Jules, I'm afraid this is where we would have to anchor on the show today. Thank you so much, a whole lot, but you really put in a great deal of information out there of how people must, beyond moving from the policy speak and all of that, we must get it to the people who it affects a great deal. And that's what we are talking about. And we appreciate Ibuku sent in, who called, and then we had Wale, but Ibuku also speaks as, from a point of view, you would understand how annoying it can be to have an egg is about 100 naira or thereabout right now. And if you see the size, it can even go straight in. I could force it into my nose and then you won't even know. That's how annoying it looks for 100 naira. But hey, this is where we live it. But let's hope that whoever is listening would have at least a cause to have breakfast or probably lunch or probably one of it not missing if they can't get the three as we speak of the World Food Day today. But I say thank you very much to Juliet Aigbe, aka Chef Jules, for joining us this morning. Do have
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. And that's how we say it's a wrap on the show this morning. We say thank you all very much for starting with us from 6 a.m. till this moment. And then we close up by saying we'll be back here again tomorrow to do it better. Remember, when you say the Lord's Prayer, there is bread, part of it. Bread is also included. It tells you how important bread and food is to the survival of the soul. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Oluwaseun will be here for Strictly Soul, and of course the duo of Ayo and Joy will be here for the drive time discussions and other issues to drive you home. So have a great day.
We know you're listening on this frequency.
Well, I didn't want to